House of the Dragon Season 3 can't hit our screens any quicker, even if we wanted it to, can it? All of the promotional material for this season has been making us regret that this wasn't Season 2, because we're finally gonna get some action. After 2 seasons of admittedly expositional setup, war wages across Westeros as the House of the Dragon tears itself apart. And while you might have noticed many things in the trailer, did you notice them all? Here are 12 things that you might have missed in the final trailer for House of the Dragon Season 3. And stay with us until the end, because you'll want the answer to our last question.
These are turbulent times.
The many horrors of the Gullet. The Battle of the Gullet was highlighted several times during this trailer, and that makes a lot of sense. It's going to be the first battle we witness in Season 3, the first proper battle, and moments we glimpsed in the promo material are as exciting as they are disquieting. Rhaenyra will be sending all of her able dragon riders to war, and the result will not be as clear as she might have hoped for. That's because the Triarchy's approach is something we're aware of, but she isn't. The Valyrian fleet is doing 2 things right now. The first is holding the blockade, and the second is moving towards King's Landing. We'll get to the latter in a few moments, but the former isn't something they're expecting will be hit by naval forces. We see 4 dragons flying around, broken, splintered, and burning ships. 2 of those belong to Ulf the White and Hugh Hammer, while the other are Jace and Balon. We see Corlys Valyrian standing aghast at the queen who never was, with fire raging around him, and Shirako Lohar, the Triarchy's captain, slaying Valyrian soldiers and men-at-arms as efficiently as a man can. We also see a green dragon's feet trailing the waters, and briefly catch sight of Jace flying too low over the water. All of this comes from the Battle of the Gullet, and to say that this engagement will end in victory for the Blacks is a statement half true. The other half is riddled with grief, fire, and blood, as you'll learn before this month is out, but we'll leave you with this. What happens here will set the tone for Rhaenyra's characterization for the rest of the series, and what happens at the Gullet is not something any mother would want to live long enough to see. So, while we've all known the Battle of the Gullet is coming, all these shots confirm that it will be just as ugly as it was in the books, and that's reassuring considering how far the show steered from the source material. Alicent's declaration. After all the Gullet-based violence fades away, we'll see Alicent Hightower talking to her son Aemond, telling him about the deal she's made with Rhaenyra. Aemond is the only one in the Green camp at King's Landing who's still hell-bent on defeating his enemies in the field. He probably thinks having the world's largest dragon under his legs makes him invulnerable, and in a way he isn't wrong. We do see Aemond and Vhagar landing in Harrenhal's courtyard at one point, with Vhagar laying waste to the already burned castle as Aemond stalks its towers and keeps, looking to put down any and all opposition to his authority. But unlike the books, where he set out for Harrenhal with Criston Cole's army, in the show, Aemond will be escaping. That's because his mother's just made a deal with the devil, and her most powerful bargaining chip is no longer in her possession. Neither Aemond nor Alicent are aware of the fact that Larys Strong has abducted Aegon for safekeeping, at least not at the end of Season 2. And if you recall, one of the terms for this truce between Rhaenyra and Alicent was that the latter will hand Aegon over for execution to the former. We see Rhaenyra screaming that she wants Aegon the Usurper to be brought before her towards the end of the trailer, and we also notice Aegon being surrounded by what looks like an army from House Bar Aemon of Sharp Point. The sigil on the soldiers' shields are hard to make out, but the general silhouette suggests a fish-like figure. This could be either Bar Aemons with their heraldic swordfishes, or House Moot, whose sigil is a leaping red salmon. The latter would make sense considering Aegon's dragon Sunfire was left at Rook's Rest, which is close to Maidenpool, the seat of House Moot, and a big storyline for his character will be reuniting with his mount. There are a couple scenes in the trailer where we see a man walking out of a cave as Dragonfire illuminates his silhouette, and another where a few men are struggling with something as Dragonfire bellows before them. Both of those shots can be connected to Aegon's search for Sunfire, and all of them hint at one drastic conclusion for Rhaenyra, that Alicent broke their deal and let her son escape. Aemond won't care about Aegon's life, of course, because he's already tried killing him once. Even if Helaena rattled him with her prophecy, he'll carve his own path and win glory how he wishes to win it. We do know he'll be taking flight and heading towards the Riverlands, so there's no doubt in our minds that he'll be gone shortly after Alicent updates him on her treason. But as for the Green and Black Queens, the hope for any friendliness will die when Rhaenyra lands in the capital and finds the most important part of her bargain missing from the city. And speaking of her landing in the capital, Rhaenyra takes King's Landing. Rhaenyra Targaryen will be arriving to claim her father's throne well before Season 3 ends. That's because Season 3 is being set up as a mirror that will be held up before the sight of gods and men, and show the entire world that the realm's delight can also be an exceptionally cruel queen. Her arrival is being heralded by her new dragon riders, of course. She'll fly into the city with Daemon, Hugh, Ulf, and Adam of Hull by her side, and all their dragons will be at hand as well. We get a scene where Daemon is killing Hightower guards in an inner courtyard of the Red Keep, and another scene where Hugh, Ulf, and Adam stand ready for the Queen's next command, whilst the Green's banners are being pulled off the wall. We also see a scene where Rhaenyra throws a banquet, most likely in honor of her mostly bloodless conquest of King's Landing. But mostly is the key word here. Rhaenyra had promised Alicent that no blood would be shed in the name of vengeance as she secured her hold over her father's throne. But it's clear that she isn't going to honor that pledge. Not entirely. She says herself in the trailer that no more blood needs to be shed once the city is secure. That means that as long as there are treasonous elements in King's Landing, Rhaenyra will let the blood flow. And that's probably why Alicent has that look of terror and disgust in her eyes when she's reunited with her friend in the Red Keep. There's another reason that could have motivated this, of course, and that is Alicent's flight. For a brief moment during the trailer, we see Alicent is trying, clearly, to escape King's Landing with Helaena and Jaehaera. They're all hooded and cloaked, and Alicent's escape comes right as Rhaenyra's flying into the city on Syrax's back. Now, this could be at any point during the season, of course, but we think it'll occur simultaneously with Rhaenyra's taking of King's Landing, because in the books, the Black Queen doesn't leave the capital until the end of the war, and it would make sense for Alicent to try and run as soon as she realizes she doesn't have her strongest bargaining chip. She told Rhaenyra that all she wants is to go be free with her daughter and granddaughter, but with her grandson dead, Jaehaera is now the heir to the Iron Throne from Aegon's line, for she's his only living child. She comes after his brothers, of course, both Aemond and Daeron the Daring being males, but of the king's own flesh, only one trueborn child remains. Rhaenyra might have consented to letting that child go if she had her father in hand, but she won't. It's possible that she's calling Ulf, Hugh, and Adam for a meeting because she wants Aegon to be brought to her at once. And as soon as she realizes he's not in the castle, it won't matter whether Alicent betrayed her or not. She will think her complicit and send her men to bring back all three of the Greens, perhaps with the assistance of Mysaria and her little worms. This could also explain the cold look Alicent shoots her in the trailer, because their agreement was made on the pretext of friendship. But now, Rhaenyra is choosing to be a queen first, and queens can be as merciless as kings. This could be proven true by the next point on our list, which is: why is Helaena crying? One of the only family members Rhaenyra's ever had anything good to say about, especially on the green side, is Helaena. She repeatedly tells her council members and anyone else that brings up the prospect of hurting the Green Queen that Helena's an innocent with a no taste for battle or riding dragons. She'll be the least threatening to her own cause and her person besides, because she's so passive. And yet Rhaenyra's done something that's broken Helaena, so much so that she appears to be weeping non-stop in Season 3. What's she done? Well, in our minds, it's simple. Lacking Aegon and Aemond and all the other male heirs of the Greens, Rhaenyra has seized Helena's daughter as a hostage. And because she can see the future, Helaena probably knows that she won't outlive her child. It's possible that the moment Rhaenyra takes Jaehaera from her, Helaena loses her will to live, because right now, she's living for that baby's sake. And this particular sequence won't have any proper book references we can rely on to decipher it, because in the books, Helaena was driven mad by the blood and cheese incident. Neither was the focus on her being a dreamer as strong as it is in the show. So that's what we think is making her cry in the trailer, the loss of both her children. But speaking of losses, Is Mysaria betraying Rhaenyra to Aemond Hightower? The Hightower to watch out for this season will be Lord Aemond Hightower, the nephew of Sir Otto and commander of the largest army that's directly loyal to the Green. The reason that we say this is because it looks like Otto's working closely with someone inside King's Landing to undermine Rhaenyra's grip over the city, and that someone could just be Mysaria. For all her gratitude and passion from Season 2, we must never forget who Mysaria is first and foremost, and that's a broker of information. The look she got on her face whenever she attempted to aid Rhaenyra felt genuine at first, but a rewatch will show you that Mysaria is clearly plotting something behind that ghastly wound on her neck. She suggested Rhaenyra look for common-born dragon seed, knowing full well that common people don't have the same sense of loyalty and honor that many highborn dragon seeds would have been compelled to adhere to. She was the one who initiated her little kissing game with Rhaenyra, ensuring the queen's loyalty to herself in more ways than one. When Aemond Hightower says they'll strip away Rhaenyra's sway over King's Landing bite, exposing her as an unfit leader, the trailer splices in footage of Mysaria and shows a woman's hand opening a letter with a green dragon wax seal upon it. Mysaria looks extremely shady when she throws a sideways glance at one point during the trailer, and we see some graffiti on the walls of King's Landing as well. Someone paints Queen of Bastards on the walls as Rhaenyra is holding a procession through the streets, and the only person with enough pull and political savvy to pull off a move like that is Mysaria. Larys Strong is a close second admittedly, but Larys Strong hasn't been positioned as strongly as he was in the books by the show. In the books, he remained in King's Landing after Aegon's escape, according to rumor and hearsay, but in the show, he's left with Aegon. He might return at some point for sure, but still, we have our doubts about Mysaria, and we'll continue to have them for as long as she acts like a mistress of whispers, especially considering it was the Greens who employed her services first, which Aemond might be all too aware of. Corlys Valyrian turning on Rhaenyra? Corlys Valyrian and Rhaenyra Targaryen have never had good relations, or even cordial relations. The Lord of the Tides blames her for his son's death, as well as his wife's death, and the only reason he sits on her council and wears her hand's badge is because of his ambition, as well as his desire to honor Rhaenys' memory. That, and this idea that she planted in his head, that Rhaenyra will be a good, just, and merciful queen. But when he sees what she's unleashed upon King's Landing and the rest of Westeros after she comes into her father's throne, will Corlys feel like he has to hold to his vows? A shot in the trailer shows him talking to Rhaenyra about her dragons, and he rightly points out that King's Landing never loved dragons. It only feared them respectfully to preserve their own lives. He brings up the fact that Rhaenyra taking the city hasn't made her more beloved to the people, and questions the role of dragon-based violence in their war. Corlys was always an ambitious man, but this kind of caution from him is a signal, not a change in frequency. He's clearly afraid of the direction she's taking, because as the season progresses, Rhaenyra will become more and more belligerent and vengeful. She'll have a good reason, of course, but nonetheless, vengeance isn't a cup a monarch should drink from if they hope to reign for long. And perhaps there will be other reasons motivating the sea snake to turn his cloak from black to green. We'll get to those by the end of the video, but for now, let's take a step back. Who is Aemond fighting in Harrenhal? We know that by and large, Aemond Targaryen's character will be attempting to copy Daemon's takeover of Harrenhal this season. Where Daemon did it at night to take the castle unawares, Aemond will do it in broad daylight. The contrast between his uncle's caution and his brazen approach will highlight Aemond's lack of wartime experience and his power as the rider of the largest dragon in the world at the same time. But that isn't what interests us just now. There's a blink and you'll miss it moment in the trailer where Aemond is fighting someone in Harrenhal's Godswood. He's only got his tunic and his leather eye patch on, and presumably his breeches as well. But the other man is fully armed and armored. At a glance, this looks like a training session or a duel where Aemond is way too confident in his own skill. Either way, we're curious about who that guy is and why Aemond is fighting him so leisurely, because technically he's just landed in the middle of two hostile armies. The Northmen are marching down from the Twins, and the Rivermen are already heading west to deal with the Lannisters on the Red Fort. In fact, there's a scene in the trailer where we see Daemon Targaryen sitting with a silver dragon behind him, looking to secure some lord's submission. It could be that Rhaenyra has dispatched one of her new riders to back him up in the Riverlands, considering both Ulf and Adam's dragons are silver. But from her shape, the dragon at Daemon's back appears to be Silverwing, which means that this scene takes place in the Crownlands. In the books, Daemon Aemond takes his wife's new allies to all of the houses in the Crown lands that betrayed her faith to help restore said faith, and even proposes that they hold lands and titles previously held by other great lords and families. But all that ends in grief and blood and fire as well, as you'll learn soon enough. Getting back to Aemond, it appears as though some portion of the book lore will be adhered to by the show, because him training at Harrenhal can only mean one of two things. Either Criston Cole's host arrives at the castle like their prince, or someone in Harrenhal's service has been appropriated by Aemond for his swordplay drills. In both cases, it'll be interesting to see how he navigates them, because Harrenhal is also where Alice Rivers resides, and she's got an interesting role to play in Aemond's fate as well, as she did Daemon's. The dragon in Harrenhal changing from Black's best fighter to the Green's best fighter isn't coincidental, and perhaps we'll learn that through the context of a sword fight in Season 3. Rhaena's first flight. We don't know exactly what's going to happen to Rhaena after abandoning her charges Aegon and Viserys and going dragon hunting in the Vale, but we're kind of happy for her because we see the shadow of her first flight in the trailer. And we do mean that literally because we see Rhaena Targaryen twice in the trailer. The first time is likely in the direct aftermath of her upcoming face-to-face with Sheepstealer. She's still gaping like a fearful child, and she's backed up in a corner like Adam of Hull was when Seasmoke bonded with him. Then we see a dragon shadow on a grassy, stony path, and yes, considering this is Westeros, that path can be anywhere. But from the perspective of visual languages, that path can't be anywhere apart from the Vale of Arryn, which has been portrayed as a stony, hilly valley across both Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon. The cost of Rhaenyra's folly is going to be high, because not only has she lost both of Rhaenyra's sons by Daemon, she directly disobeyed an express command from a queen who grows increasingly paranoid of her closest subjects and advisors. Rhaenyra's grief and hunger for revenge will reach an all-time peak in Season 3, and Rhaena's childish desire for a dragon and the defiance she's thrown in her queen's face because of it will be enough to make her suspect her husband's daughter as a traitor. But at least Rhaena can fly now, like her sister, and she has a bigger mouth as well. We're curious to see how the show narrative lines up with the book lore here, because in the books, there's a reason Rhaena remained dragonless for most of the war. Will the show adapt that? Only time will tell. But as of now, we're just happy that she can finally fly after all those years of heartache and jealousy toward her sister.
These are turbulent times.
Is that Black Alley? One thing that'll be front and center of Season 3 is the battles. There are going to be a minimum of half a dozen high-profile battles taking place this season. The Battle of the Gullet is one. Battle of the Honeywine is another, which is where that shot of the Hightower army arrayed in battle formations with Prince Daemon's Tessarion at the front most likely comes from. There's the Battle of the Red Fork between House Lannister and House Tully's Rivermen, and the Fish Feed, where the Starks join them as well. The order in which these battles occur and their participants seem to have been shuffled around quite a bit, considering Daemon Targaryen will be part of at least one of the last two we mentioned. Our best guess is that he's going to take part in the Battle of the Red Fork, especially because he seems to be holding a war council with the Riverlords, most prominent of whom is a woman with black around her eyes, lips, and many other features. That woman is most likely Black Alicent Blackwood, and her relative Benjicott Blackwood is the new Lord of Raventree Hall, as well as one of the infamous Lads, a group of young rivermen who display immense martial prowess during the Dance of the Dragons. Benjicott and Oscar Tully can be relied upon for stellar child acting from this season, but Allie is a different beast altogether. She's an expert marksman, and her arrows will secure some crucial victories for the Blacks. Moreover, she'll end up marrying a man who will only show up again at the end of the series, Lord Cregan Stark. Alicent Blackwood and Cregan Stark get married at the end of the dance in a move that reconciles the North with the tumultuous South, and it's one of the first times that a Northerner marries someone from below the neck, at least in the book lore that we know so far. So that, and the fact that she's going to be helping all those howling Northmen from the trailer enforce the Queen's justice upon the world, makes Black Allie a figure to watch closely. And if the show does introduce a romance angle between her and Daemon, let's just say we wouldn't be surprised, considering they did cut out one between him and Nettles. Our first glimpse of Tumbleton? A curious thing about the trailer is that we see Hightower troops not only on the attack, but also on the defense. There's a moment where the Hightowers are holding what looks like a wooden keep or a town as they launch stones from a trebuchet into an army that looks organized yet small. Now, it's true that the Greens still have a lot of friends, but most of those friends are in the Westerlands. In the region itself, they have fewer allies than they'd have hoped for, considering Highgarden stays neutral throughout the dance. What allies they do have been compelled to ally with them, and the city they're firing those trebuchets off of seems to have been prepared for exactly that task. There's only one place where the Greens do such a thing in the books, and that's Tumbleton, the site of the dance's most bloody and tide-shifting battle. Remember how Daemon walked through a field of corpses, men and dragon alike, during his vision at the end of Season 2? Well, the fields outside that Green-occupied castle look exactly like the ones from Daemon's vision. And if we're right about this, then the dead dragon's heads will join those dead men before Season 3 ends. But as for whose dragons they might be, and why they may lie dead and cold, who betrays Rhaenyra? The question that will loom the largest over Rhaenyra's head this season is, who has betrayed me? The reason is simple. She grows more distrustful by the day, and for a person in her position, mistrust and dislike are friends more powerful than trust and affection. She's lost her father, lost sons, a husband, and a lover, and her entire birthright. Season 2 Rhaenyra appeared measured and calm because that was the only option she had available to her. Season 3 Rhaenyra won't be the same, especially now that she's gotten more dragon fire on her side. The final 2 shots of her from the trailer are quite telling in that regard. In the first, she's howling, asking who betrayed her as tears choke her eyes. This could be the aftermath of the Battle of the Gullet, when she finds out Aegon and Viserys are missing, or both of these things. And in the last scene of the trailer, we find Rhaenyra Targaryen in queenly garb, looking down at the camera with dead eyes, as Alicent's voice says that she'd warned someone that this is what things would come to. That person isn't Rhaenyra, we think, because it's more likely to be a part of the dialogue where she'll no doubt attempt to make Aemond give up the throne peacefully. But it matches Rhaenyra's trajectory as well, because all of the fears that her father had riddled her brain with in the first half of Season 1 will now start coming true. As long as Rhaenyra lives, none of Alicent's brood will be safe, and she'll come to see that truth in Season 3. Rhaenyra already sees it, but right now, she's trying to be her father more than herself. The day she stops trying that is the day her real dragon comes out, and woe to the man, woman, or child that dares to step in her way. Mistrust breeds mistrust, and the Game of Thrones is filled with greedy and envious players. Someone will always be betraying Rhaenyra now that she's the queen on the throne. The question is how she'll deal with it, and the answer seems to be not too well by a country mile. And that's it for the things you might have missed from the trailer. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more dragon content this summer. We'll see you guys with yet another video. Ring that notification bell so you don't miss it. So until then, stay safe and have a great day, and don't you dare forget to stay marvelous.